Tamar was a young woman full of dreams and hopes for the future. She had grown up in a modest household, learning the ways of her people and the traditions that had been passed down through generations. Her life took a significant turn when she married into a family with a powerful man named Judah. Judah was a man of great influence and authority, respected by many. He had 3 sons, each with their own unique traits and personalities. Tamar married the oldest son, and she hoped to build a life with him, filled with love and children, but fate had other plans. However, was not a good man. He did things that displeased God, and as a result, his life was cut short. Tamar found herself a widow, her dreams shattered. In her culture, it was customary for a widow to marry her deceased husband's brother to ensure the family line continued. Tamar was now a widow, a status that carried a heavy burden in her society. She was expected to marry her husband's brother, Onan, to fulfill her duty and secure her future. This was not just a personal expectation, but a societal one, deeply rooted in the customs of her people. Onan, however, was not willing to fulfill this duty. He was selfish and refused to give Tamar children, knowing that any offspring would carry his brother's name and not his own. This act of defiance was seen as a grave sin, and God punished Onan for his selfishness. Tamar's hope of having children and securing her place in the family seemed to slip further away. She longed for the chance to be a mother, to hold her own child in her arms, and to see her husband's name carried on through the generations. Children were not just a personal desire, but a means to ensure her husband's legacy. They would carry on his name, his lineage, and his memory. This was a deeply ingrained belief in her culture, one that gave her a sense of purpose and belonging. So Tamar married Onan, the second son. But Onan was selfish. He refused to give Tamar children. He didn't want to share his inheritance. God punished Onan. He took his life too. Tamar waited. Tamar's life was filled with disappointment and sorrow. She had done everything expected of her, yet she was left with nothing. She hoped that Judah would give her his last son, Shelah, as was the custom. But Judah was afraid. Judah worried that Shelah would also die if he married Tamar. He couldn't bear the thought of losing another son. So he told Tamar to wait until Shelah was older. But deep down, Tamar knew that Judah had no intention of fulfilling his promise. Tamar waited patiently, holding on to the hope that one day she would be given the chance to marry Shelah and have children. But as time passed, it became clear that Judah had no plans to honor his word. Tamar was left in a state of limbo, neither married nor free to move on with her life. She pleaded with Judah, reminding him of his duty and the promise he had made. But Judah's fear for his last son's life overshadowed his sense of justice and responsibility. He continued to delay, leaving Tamar in a state of uncertainty and despair. Judah's worry for Shelah's safety was understandable, but it left Tamar in a precarious position. She was a young woman with no husband, no children, and no clear future. Her status as a widow made her vulnerable and dependent on the goodwill of others. Tamar's disappointment grew with each passing day. She had been promised a future, but it was slipping away from her grasp. She felt abandoned and betrayed by the very family she had married into, a family that was supposed to protect and support her, but he never sent for her. Tamar was left alone, without a husband or children. Her plea for justice and fulfillment of her rightful place in the family went unanswered. She stood alone, a symbol of unfulfilled promises and lost dreams. Tamar's story is one of resilience and determination. Despite the hardships and the injustices she faced, she continued to hope and fight for her rightful place. Her plea was not just for herself, but for the honor and legacy of her late husband. Tamar's journey is a testament to the strength and perseverance of a woman who refused to be forgotten. Years passed. Tamar saw Judah. She had been waiting for this moment, a moment she had meticulously planned for. Her heart raced as she watched him from a distance, knowing that this was her chance to change her fate. He was going to a nearby town. The town was bustling with activity, a perfect place for Judah to blend in and go about his business unnoticed. But Tamar had other plans. She knew exactly where he was headed and what he was going to do. He was shearing his sheep. This was her chance. The annual sheep shearing was a significant event, drawing many people from the surrounding areas. Tamar knew that Judah would be preoccupied, making it the perfect time to execute her plan. Tamar took off her widow's clothes. She had worn them for so long, a symbol of her mourning and her status as a widow. But today she needed to be someone else, someone unrecognizable. She covered herself with a veil. The veil was not just a disguise, it was a symbol of her new identity. She was no longer Tamar, the widow. She was now a mysterious woman, waiting by the roadside. She sat by the road Judah would travel. She knew he would pass by this way, and she positioned herself strategically, ensuring that he would notice her. She looked like a prostitute. Judah saw Tamar. He didn't recognize her. The veil concealed her identity, and her new attire made her look like a common prostitute, someone Judah would never suspect to be his daughter-in-law. He was attracted to her. He approached her. He offered her payment. Tamar agreed. She had anticipated this moment, and she knew exactly how to respond to his advances. But she wanted something else. Tamar had a different kind of payment in mind, something far more valuable than money. "Give me your staff," she said, "and your signet ring." These items were not just ordinary possessions. They were symbols of Judah's authority and identity. These were signs of Judah's authority. He agreed. In his desire, he handed over these significant items without hesitation, not realizing the gravity of his actions. Tamar became pregnant that day. Her plan had worked. She had secured her future and ensured her place in Judah's lineage. The consequences of this day would unfold in ways that neither of them could have imagined. Months later, Judah heard the news. Tamar was pregnant. He was furious. "She is a prostitute," he shouted. "Bring her out. She must be burned to death." Tamar was brought before Judah. She was afraid. But she held up the staff and the ring. "These belong to the man who made me pregnant," she said. Judah recognized his belongings. He was stunned. He realized what he had done. He had condemned Tamar, but he was the father of her child. Tamar gave birth to twin boys. The first twin stretched out his hand. The midwife tied a scarlet thread around it. "This one will be the firstborn," she declared. But the baby pulled his hand back. His brother Perez was born first. The other twin, Zerah, followed. Perez means breakthrough. Zerah means dawn or rising. The birth of the twins was unusual, and it was a sign. God was at work. Even in this messy situation, he had a plan. Section 5, the lineage of hope from Perez to Jesus. Centuries later, a baby boy was born in Bethlehem. His name was Jesus. He would change the world. Matthew, one of Jesus' disciples, wrote down Jesus' family history. He wanted people to know where Jesus came from. Surprisingly, Tamar's name was in the list. So was Perez's. This was unusual. Genealogies usually listed important men. They rarely included women. And Tamar's story was scandalous. Why include her? Section 6. Unconventional paths, God's surprising choices. Matthew wanted to show something amazing. God works in unexpected ways. He uses ordinary people, even those who have made mistakes. He uses their stories to bring about his plan. Tamar's story is about God's grace. God forgave Judah's sin. He used Perez, born from that sin, to be part of Jesus' family. God often chooses unusual paths. He uses the weak to shame the strong. He chooses the foolish to confound the wise. He brings beauty from ashes. Section 7. Jesus, the ultimate breakthrough, a parallel to Perez. Jesus' birth was also unconventional. He was born to a virgin, Mary. This was a miracle. God's Spirit came upon Mary. She became pregnant. Jesus is like Perez. He is a breakthrough. He broke through the power of sin and death. He offers us new life. Perez means breakthrough. Jesus is the ultimate breakthrough. He opens the way for us to know God. He sets us free from our past. Section 8. Echoes of Tamar, divine intervention and new life. Tamar's story echoes in Jesus' life. Both involved unexpected pregnancies. Divine intervention played a role, and both resulted in new life. Tamar's story reminds us that God can use anything. He can bring good out of bad situations. He can use our mistakes to show his love and power. Jesus came to save sinners. He came to offer forgiveness and hope. He came to make us part of God's family, just like Perez was included in his lineage. Section 9. Conclusion. Embracing the unexpected. Life is full of surprises, twists and turns that we often don't see coming. These moments can be both challenging and rewarding, pushing us to grow in ways we never imagined. Tamar's story teaches us to embrace the unexpected. Her journey was filled with unforeseen events, yet she navigated them with courage and faith. God's ways are not our ways. His plans are often beyond our understanding, but they are always for our good. He sees things we don't see. He knows the bigger picture and orchestrates events in ways that are beyond our comprehension. He works in ways we don't understand. We may face challenges, we may make mistakes, but these are not the end of our story. But God can use even those things for good. He can turn our failures into opportunities for growth and our pain into a source of strength. He can bring about His purposes. Just as a farmer tends to his crops, God nurtures us through every season of life. Let us trust in God's plan. Even when we don't understand it, we can have faith that He is guiding us. Let us be open to His surprises. Let us remember Tamar. Her story is a testament to the power of faith and resilience. And let us celebrate Jesus, the ultimate breakthrough, who brings hope and new life to all who believe. His life and resurrection are the greatest examples of unexpected grace and redemption.